I'm Chantal, the marketing from Cosentino, Malaysia. Well, thank you for taking your time out to join us today for Cosentino inaugural webinar here in Malaysia. I can see we have some viewers from other countries. Thank you for joining us. At Cosentino, we are a global Spanish family-owned company known to produce and distribute high-value innovative surface for architecture and design. So as a company, we are aimed to be at the forefront of innovations and sustainability. We are also highly involved in imagining and also creating design solutions that offer value and inspirations to people's lives. So the reason why we are hosting a webinar is because that we know in today's society, it's becoming increasingly aware of the importance of being environmentally responsible for building and interior design. In an interior, a sustainable design projects often involve many factors as determine the efficiency and also effective ways of use space. Well, in today's sections, we are honored to have 3 award-winning interior design experts here to exchange their expertise and insight. And we hope that the webinar series will be able to spark inspiration and encourage dialogues on innovation, sustainability, and architectural ideation. At the meantime, it's also leading aspects of the importance and value of sustainability in interior design. Well, let's not delay this. For today's sessions, I would like to introduce our moderator, Alvin Chang, the Managing Directors for ACG Media, who will be hosting today's sessions. Hi, Alvin.
Hi, Chantal.
Well, thank you for moderating the session today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, the floor is yours now. I'm not going to share anything from my end. Over to you, Alvin.
Thank you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alvin Chang, CEO of ACG Media. We publish magazines online and hard copy such as Metropolitan Home, Archilab, and Designer Concept. I'm your moderator today, and please allow me to explain the format of this talk. Today, we are presenting 3 speakers on the topic of sustainability in interior design. Create eco-friendly objects and spaces. Specially brought to you by Cosentino Architecture and Interior webinar. Each speaker will be given 15 to 20 minutes for their presentation. At the end of the sessions, all 3 speakers will be available for a Q&A session by the audience. Therefore, if you have any questions, kindly forward it to the chat box and we will answer as much questions as time permits. Our first topic for today is the evolution of design and build scene. As Cosentino is well known for being innovative and evolutionary in architecture and design, this session discusses about the evolution of interior design and what to do. And what do interior designs look for in the build scene in this modern era? Today, our first speaker is Alex Lee, co-founder and creative director of New Infinity, an award-winning interior design firm with 13 years of experience in the design scene. In the years of practice in the design industry, he has always passionately pursued and strived towards making the design scene a better community. Alex is also the host and founder of a leading design YouTube channel in Malaysia, known as Design Seed, with over 120,000 subscribers. Without further ado, let's welcome Alex Lee. Alex, over to you.
Hello, guys. Hey, thanks, Alvin. Thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Cosentino, for having us. So today, I'm invited here to talk about sustainability in interior design. So let me just share my screen. I'm just going to get this out. There you go. So hello, I'm Alex Lee, and I'm from Malaysia. So a shout out to fellow viewers from all around the world. Thank you for watching. So I'm just going to start off with talking about sustainability in interior design. So let's see. So interior design is not just about color matching or choosing tasteful furnitures. Especially with Pinterest, Instagram, and YouTube, many could get their design inspirations from numerous of these platforms. Of course, with the right advice and professional eye, the composition of the entire project would end up looking like this. but it's still just it's not just about mixing and matching. Yeah. So let me just share something with you. I just had a meeting with a Sydney client of mine in Australia just last week, and the conversation started with them sharing with me that they have troubles choosing the right sofa and matching the colors to the sofa and the draperies. And then I told them, we will get there, but that's not the core of why you're hiring me. With a puzzled look on their face, they then asked me, then what is? So then we went on speaking about the quality of space, how their lifestyle would revolve around the house, and there we started choreographing the spatial quality based on their requirements. For example, we spoke about moving the active spaces to one side of the home, which in other words meant spaces like the living hall, the kitchen, and so forth. With the exploration of having more windows opening for better cross ventilation, and on the quieter side of the house, we would locate where the bedrooms, the reading area, and so on was going to be placed. So doing that,
okay,
we will be able to create a significant impact in spatial choreography. Like during the day, everyone is gathered at the active part of the
gallery.
home. Alvin, your mic.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. So I was saying, doing that by separating the active and quiet spaces, we will be managing to create a significant impact in spatial choreography. Like during the day, everyone is gathered at the active part of the property, and unwinding at night, everyone would be quietly tucked on the peaceful side of the home. So, and then there is the skill of environmental adaptation, where we study the sun orientation and apply to the design to our benefit, letting natural light penetrate into the space where we want it, and the blocking out the sunlight and heat where we don't want it to cause glare and discomfort. So then after all this professional advice that I gave to my Sydney client, it kicked in, and all this professional advice kicks in and been applied into the design board. Then the client start to realize and understand how impactful and delighting it is to hire an interior designer. However, okay, so this brings me to today's main point. An interior designer or architect could be very innovative in crafting the best ideas, but in Malaysia, we are also craving for innovation in building and material options. In today's advancement in the construction and material technology, material scientists has ventured into a whole new level of research and development. Back in the olden days, where wood, bricks, and steel are the core materials to construction, today, a substantial variety of material floods the design and construction scene. But are the industry players aware of these advantages? And are these advanced developments being applied into the design and build scene? So I'm about to raise this question. There are plenty of like-minded and innovative practices out there craving to explore and apply the modernization material technologies into their projects. But there are still quite a handful of us that are conservative and reluctant to encourage this movement. It is no doubt a fact that the evolution of design and architecture relies on this movement. However, many of us here are moving on practices towards sustainability. So I'm just going to share a short video with you. I would like to share this video to give a shout out to some of these amazing masterpieces that portrays the best of the innovation and sustainability to the modern era of interior design and architecture. Start now. I hope you guys find the video inspiring. It shares a subtle message that needs to be spread across to create a greater impact. I was speaking to an architect friend. Speaking to an architect friend of mine, Richard Tan, that just yesterday, and there was this sentence he mentioned that got me thinking. He said, "Our Earth is in pain. Global warming is happening, and humanity is not willing to pay or play their part at their very own expense." So, would you pay an extra 50% to complete a project just so you could save the Earth, when your neighbors are paying much lesser and not playing their role in preserving the environment? So this is the mentality, is what we encourage that needs to be changed. And it starts from us here, this community that carries most weight in influencing the design of tomorrow. By encouraging sustainable building materials, sustainable designs, recycling of materials, the interior design and architecture scene carries a high influential impact and turning the construction scene into a more sustainable community. In the price point angle, it may seem like most of these advanced sustainable ventures comes in exorbitant price tags. However, if we were to understand the roles it plays, the durability of the cost of these materials, we may be able to save some costs in the long run and at the same time save the environment. The value of our service is deemed on how our expertise impact the lifestyle quality for our clients. And to me, the value of sustainable products is deemed if it complements the quality of the lifestyle of my clients. So So I hope you enjoyed the video of my short presentation. Before I pass my session over back to Elvin, I would like to just emphasize that every big change starts with a small step. Together as a community, we would create a movement that could inspire, and I am certain a good cause could transpire from that. So thank you everyone for having me. If you have more questions or feedbacks you would like to share with us, you can reach us through our Facebook and Instagram via New Infinity. In my session here, back to you, Elvin.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for the interesting presentation. I have a couple of questions for you.
Oh.
All right. What are the sustainable core elements that you could immediately kickstart in a home? Perhaps you can share with us some points.
I think one of the very common immediate impact that we could use will be the changing of LED lightings. I think back when we were using PLC lightings and halogen lightings, tungsten light bulbs, that era has changed. Right? LED now is very, very common. So that's one of the main things we could immediately change to impact sustainability. In terms of design, how we would, as interior designers, how we encourage natural lighting into spaces. If you see most of our projects, we always emphasize on natural lighting. So spaces where we call active spaces, where we spend most of the active time at home, we try to keep that area very, very bright. Yeah, of course not to the extent where it creates glare, but a lot of comfort, a lot of natural lighting coming into space. So you don't need to really switch on all the lights or switch on any lights at all during the day. That's one of the key pointers. And I think if for those that are open to having no aircon, because I believe all Asians love to switch on aircons. So of course I understand why. Malaysia is not exactly cooling, right? We have two weathers, hot, cold, that's it. It's dry or wet. But during dry, during the evening, the cross ventilation is actually surprisingly very, very, very calming, very, very, it's not hot, right? So if the design could be designed in the sense where it's cross-ventilated well, then you could actually reduce switching on the air cons. So I think these are the few pointers that I immediately would use in our projects.
Okay, thank you. How about how sustainability influences our lifestyle? Is there any difference between design with sustainability and a design with non-sustainability?
I think this is a quite subjective question. I think some people could could deem me wrong, but I think the answer could be very, very subjective. But put it this way: if you sometimes when you do something good, right, with a good cause, that self-ego is boosted up. You feel that you're doing something back. You're contributing back to society. You're contributing something that is for a good cause. Yeah. So, regardless, of course, you save electricity, stuff like that. But you cultivate a good practice, and this education that you tell your kids, like for example, hey, don't switch on so many lights. Switch off the aircon. Let's enjoy the breeze outside. So this practice gets them nurtured well. They have the right mindset at the very beginning, and that to me, that practice actually gives a very good, strong foresight of us contributing back to the earth. So I think that is one of the immediate impact for me.
Right. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
Don't leave us immediately. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the talk. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex.
I'll be here.
We see you in a while.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So next, we will have topics coming up, which is called sustainable spaces, longevity and flexibility. As Cosentino surfaces are known to be very sustainable and environmental friendly, this session discusses about the benefits of sustainable surfaces, the material, and how it can contribute to the space that will contribute to the benefits of humans' physical and emotional being in the long run. Our next speaker is none other than IDR Joe Chan. He is the principal of Design Tone Interior Practice, a mid-sized multidisciplinary interior design firm based in Kuala Lumpur. He has more than 2 decades of experience in interior design and project management. Aside from being a designer, Joe also lectures extensively as an adjunct lecturer in the topics of interior design and architecture for universities and colleges in Malaysia. His design firm has received numerous local and international awards, with accolades in almost every category in design. His philosophy is to continue pushing boundaries in design and constantly challenge the stereotype notion of space. Joe currently held the position as honorary treasurer to the Malaysian Institute of Interior Designers and have been a council member since 2018. Please welcome IDR Joe Chan. Joe, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Alvin, for the amazing shout out. My whole life story was my whole career was displayed today, right? So yeah, thanks again, Alvin, and also Cosentino for such an opportunity to present a little bit of my insight into sustainability. And of course, a good shout out to my mates here, Matthew and also Alex, good friends of mine, for presenting. So without further ado, allow me to share my slide, and hopefully this doesn't go haywire. All right, can you see my whole screen? Let me see, sorry. All right, so can everyone see my screen at the moment?
No.
All right, I have shared my screen.
Can.
Right, all right, again. All right, my talk will be centered on how I perceive sustainability in the context that are slightly weird from the direct approach of looking at all the active system and etc., materiality and etc. of sustainability. But starting with the basic fundamental of spatial design and indirect metaphor towards sustainability. So as we talk about sustainability, we are talking about targeting, sorry, I think this is supposed to be, yeah, this, as we talk about sustainability, we are talking about longevity and flexibility, right? In which these terms are define the constraint of time when I say constraint of time, it also means that we dive into sustainability in the context of variables, trend, venue, specific likings and time, more of a global converse within the interior design industry. Right. While I was doing this presentation and preparing for this presentation, I chanced upon this article from the Zine that some of the judges for that event prompts me to really think. Is a crucial question to the current ID industry. Are we overly overwhelmed, right, by the term Instagrammable? As major criteria for our design brief. That was also a question that resonates quite closely to me. And if you were to see what Johnny of the founder of JC Architecture, a renowned architect and interior design, it has this meaning. The quoting is much more important to provide users with an enriching life moment than an Instagram moment. Hence, I look into this means at all times we are supposed to question the needs than the wants of the end users. So today's question, right, topic is how do we do our best as designers to ensure that the space we craft is sustainable and efficient to the usage of users. So what I'm trying to say is basically, when we talk about sustainability or indirectly sustainable spaces, basically we are looking into a space that doesn't require us to renovate multiple times and things are being done correctly, and it's very comfort and very comfortable when we are staying there. So this is the context that I would like to look into, right? So when we look into this aspect of space planning and how I do this graph that intertwines between materiality and space planning, it becomes sustainability, right? So this would be the focus of my talk. And as I mentioned, the next slide. So when you have sustainable space, right, it becomes an efficient space. So firstly, when I look into all these common senses as a designer, when we design space, all right, all these are common senses what sometimes we tend to overlook when we tend to overkill or we tend to over-design. So we forget all these basic principles of space that somehow or other affect the longevity and also the sustainable spaces. So we need to determine, right, this purpose of defining zones. So oftentimes, that's how we look into our spatial planning, how this zone relates to one another, and how this correlate, so that the space that we design is actually very, like what Alex has mentioned, is very well thought of. How does this all space comes into play, and how these spaces become an overlapping space, and how these spaces become an intertwined space, and hence, a very good narratives of the space and the importance of space being displayed. So again, the common senses are, when we look into it, right, is good circulation, right? Circulation, of course, is determined by a factor of functional efficiency as well as spaces that is contributing to connectivity. So as you see in this example, I mean, it's just not rocket science. To me, space planning is not rocket science. You have a good proportion, you have good dimensions, good space planning and the good circulation. You would not have all this hassle, right, in terms of how you plan your space. So coming back to the I would say, very basic thing that we talk about sustainability on and off, right? We look into the factors of maximizing lighting. How do we maximize light to give that the desired feeling in the space? So we look into not rocket science, accent light, day lighting, ambience light, task light. So how it affects us psychologically, in terms of all this, the way we look into space, right? Moving on to the next slide. So even basic understanding of placement of outlets and switches helps us to navigate unnecessary relocation of switches, rehacking and things like that. So it's just a very simple consideration and convenience that we can put into how we even allocate where we want to place, all these switches and plugs. So all this, in a way, provide us a very good approach towards how we use the space, and also how do we continuously have a sustainable space which also provides that comfort and also that longevity in how we look into the way we design. So the next point, all these are not rocket science point that we tend to forget, is about freedom of communication, different abled people or different abled people in wheelchair, in all these considerations, safety context, and also good circulation space. What I'm trying to say is, if we have due consideration in the way we do spatial design, we are actually minimizing redoing of works. While we minimizing redoing of works is somehow or other relatable to how we do sustainability, because we are no longer demolishing walls, we are no longer reconfiguring the space, and thus it does not affect, the additional usage of material, the pollution, and also reducing carbon footprint, which is the core values of part of sustainability. So I do not just want to, preach, so I would like to show, how we in my company, how do we bring this into reality, just not about talking or just preaching, but how do we actually illustrate some of these pointers that I've spoken about. So this is a project that we have done in a couple of years ago. It's actually a university. It's in a university. It's a college. It's an architectural space. We look into, of course, like, space planning, and when we look into that aspects of natural lighting coming in, and because it's a university and it's a studio, it has high density of students, and therefore, if you look at it overall, we really determine the zone. We really determine how spaces are in between all the furnitures, circulation space, that we try to allow easy circulation and maximizing of light, that aspect, and consider accessibility, whereby there's no, the circulations are wide enough for wheelchair or for multiple people using the space, and how they circulate. And we introduce ramps instead of steps up and things like that. So this is the completed studio, and you can see how we determine the purpose of zoning, right? Where it's open space and also enclosed space, and allowing easy circulation. The corridors are wide enough. If you look at the picture, when you pull the chair up, both sides of the chairs, you still have ample space to move around. Then we maximizing both the daylights, also artificial lights, and past light. So some of these are consideration that we put into. And the next thing is basically, if you look at, the placement of switches, come into or easily look at the switches, you can easily in the right position. You don't have to places to find the switches. So these are some of the core points that you want to illustrate. And of course, the next picture, you will see that, the lighting itself, at a different temperature, different ambience. As I'm talking about this project, of course, there are other aspect of sustainability that we put in it. Some of the materials which I would actually illustrate later on. So in that context, right, we talk about space planning, then, sustainability intertwines and materiality. I think it's no longer a rocket science that, we part of sustainability is about material. So it's always a good point that we, a lot of people argue, if you really want to talk about sustainability, then don't build. But reality is you can't. But we can always go for materials that is low carbon footprint, that allows low carbon footprint, or recyclable material, or any green effort that is put into the production of material. Example, Cosentino, they use quite a bit of water renewable energy in the production, as well as some other products as well. So these are the aspect that I would like to look into. Right, common materials that we see, bamboo, aesthetically, and also durability, as easy growing. So along this way, these are the materials that we can actually have taken it for granted, and it's easily, easily mature, it's easily regrow. So I'm going to go on quite quickly, like natural stones, there's always this debate about natural stones, is it sustainable? But this is it's a natural product. Right, but of course, then we have this argument that quarries and when they do the production, what will happen? But if it's being mined or it's being quarried responsibly, while the the usage of recycled water or renewable electricity and things like that, I think is part of sustainability as part of sustainable material. And of course, composite material, engineered stone, quartz, are materials that is commonly used, and even the latest project that we use this sort of cement that has also in a responsive manner how they're being produced. As timber-wise, FSC, all this council, all this certified, material that we can actually use in most of the project. Cork is a very common common material that we can use. Even like wool, linen, fabrics, and also glass because it's easily recyclable. Even recycled aluminium, stainless steel is also a material that we can consider. And a lot of other materials like even resilient flooring, linoleum flooring, high density polyethylene of materials, and of course. The most common thing is about paint, low VOC, even adhesive, low VOC. So instead of just talking, what I preach, then what I want to show is basically how we manifest all these criteria into the design that we have undertaken. So again, bringing it to reality. Like example, this project basically is we consider a lot of low energy consumption, LED lights, all the materials are basically green products, low VOCs in adhesive, and also the timber that being used or the plywood being used, all these have to have the FSC certification, green walls, beautiful quartz that we use for this project. Also a lot of consideration in terms of the artificial lighting or even the air conditioning, right? This is again the Taylor's project whereby you see quite a bit of usage of cork in terms for the students to pin up their artwork. We also use quite a lot of green carpets. We would recycle some of the conduit that we could use in the ceiling, so it's upcycling of materials and so on and so forth. So these are the things that actually, as an interior designer, we can keep on advocating towards how we want to put in our project. Example, this is a salon project which we use a lot of stainless steel and also the material from Italy and all around the world, that we can actually incorporate in the design, which has all this green certificate and and also is a good product to be used in the project. So all in all, we are covering bits and pieces of all over this certain material available in the market. So this material, again, like what Alex says, is constantly evolving, constantly being innovated, and it's also have all this environmental awareness in what they produce. So to end my talk today, I would like to quote from William Barrington Binns. As we have all said, you could see sustainability was a key factor in so many of the projects, whether that was through employing all the artisans locally or using reclaimed or upcycle products. It was definitely on the minds of so many of the entrants. So that's a little bit of my presentation for today, and over to you, Alvin. Thank you so much. I'm Joe Chan from Design Tone Interior Practice.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, thank you for the interesting presentation. Okay, what we'd like to know is, what are the challenges you usually face when you promote sustainability in the home?
Challenges, that's a very good question.
I'm sure there's more than one.
Well, to answer your question, right, you were asking challenges, right? I think for most customer, when, like what Alex says, right, when they talk about sustainability, the first thing they think about is actually the cost, right? It involves a lot of cost. But I think we should approach the client in different contexts. We educate them that, let's look at it, when we talk about sustainability, it doesn't have to be everything. As everything, as in your aircon, you look at the active system, the passive system, the materiality. We may not necessarily, if you look at that in a broader picture, then of course it's expensive. But I think we should look into the smaller notion of it, whereby we look into, okay, at least if there's 100 materials being used in this home, let's start off using 1 or 2, right? 1 or 2. But if you look at collectively, if you're talking about one project, you use 1 or 2 green materials, right? that doesn't pinch their pocket. But if you look at today, there are thousands of projects being manifested around the world. So one project, and then you multiply it, doing 2 products, you multiply for 1 million projects. So you actually have a big pool of sustainability in terms of the project. So for me, most of the time, I would talk small first with all my clients. I don't want to, give them an impression, oh, you definitely, we just have to strategize, and of course, some clients are very open because they know the long-term effect of sustainability. And of course, now I think a lot of MNCs, they advocate that. They constantly advocate sustainability design into their design scheme. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
Okay. Okay, I got another question for you.
Oh, today is question and answer day, right?
No, one more. What are the pros and cons to spatial planning in relation to adaptive spaces?
Let me jot down your question. Sorry, I am very bad. The pros and cons?
The pros and cons to spatial planning.
Okay.
In relation to adaptive spaces, what are the things that are good, and what are the things that you think are not so good?
Oh, you
in terms of spatial planning? Yeah.
For adaptive reuse, okay. Well, I think when we talk about adaptive reuse of spaces and or adaptive reuse of a building, right? I think we are talking about injecting new life to an existing building, right? Yeah, right. So, and the pros in terms of sustainability, obviously we are reusing the walls, we're using most of whatever the content in it, and how we navigate our space planning into that space. So by reusing the space, by not demolishing a lot, and thus it comes back to sustainability in the sense that we are, reducing carbon footprint, we are not using new material, we are not using a lot of material. So I think that is also a pros. Of course, in terms of architecture, it preserves the heritage, it preserves the history, it preserves the culture in a way that that we can inject, in terms of adaptive reuse. So I see that as a pro. The cons is basically would be more of course, when you are reusing whatever there is in this space, you are actually having some constraint in terms of our space planning, right? Because you have to adapt your design to the walls or to the space that you have, or some of whatever you tend to reuse, you want to reuse. So there could be a little bit constraint. But I would like also to reframe the cons into what I mentioned earlier on how we do space planning. If we were to consider a brief very carefully and design in accordance to the brief in the context of understanding what we are doing in adaptive reuse space, then that shouldn't even be a constraint anymore. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say. So if you have a brief, right? You know that you have a brief which is all the requirement from the clients, but you also know that you're gonna use this brief into adapting into whatever building you have, right? So if you understand that context in the first place, you will navigate your spaces or your spatial planning into adapting to whatever spaces that are given to you. Thus, it's no longer a cons. So probably I'm contradicting myself, but yeah, that's my answer. Thank you. So can you hear me?
We lose you a little bit.
Okay, where am I? Sorry, my internet line wasn't that good.
You're talking about whether you understand me.
Oh, okay, whether you understand me. So sorry, then I must have lagged a lot. I've been talking too much already. So what I'm saying is basically if we understand the brief in the first place, the requirement in the first place, right, from the client, and we also know that we are going to adapt this into an adaptive reuse space, right? So in a way, we already have this in consideration in how we want to plan the space, right? So in that context, it will be very easily inserted into that, that sort of design criteria or that sort of space. So in other words, what I'm trying to say that actually I'm contradicting myself, because in a way that, the cons no longer be the cons, it becomes the pro rather than cons, Well, that would fall back to what I mentioned just now about, the sustainable spaces in a good spatial planning in how we put into our design project lah. So yeah, that's my answer. I hope now I'm not cut off, or my internet line was giving me the Oh, okay, Alex is giving me the thumbs up.
Yes, that's a very insightful sharing from you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
all right.
Pleasure.
Right. Thank you, IDR Joe Chan. That was a really useful presentation. Okay, lastly, let's move on to the topic, the adaptive reuse in interior design. As Cosentino surfaces are known to be very adaptable, this session discusses about the benefits of adaptive reuse of materials in interior design. So our speaker is none other than Matthew Lim from Matthew Lim and Associates, who believes in telling a great narrative via design language that is people-centric, immersive, and meaningful. He started MOA Design in 2015 and has since expanded his portfolios to 8 countries across Southeast Asia, specializing in food and beverages, hospitality, and residential projects. His international and local awards is longer than my CV. I'll mention some of them. Honorable mention in Outstanding Property Award in London 2020 and winner at the International Design Award 2020. Let's welcome Matthew Lim. Matthew, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Alvin, for the very generous introduction. I'm very glad to be here, and thank you, Cosentino, as well, for having me here. I think I'm very glad to be here, and also I'm very nervous as well because it's been quite a while. I have not been sharing the public, especially with 2 very established, very outstanding designers that just done their sharing. My slides, the things that I'm going to share may not be as interesting as what you have heard from the 2 very top designers just now, but I will try my best to make it, as interesting as possible. Okay, so I'll share my slide. Okay, all right. So as introduced by Alvin, my company is called Matthew Lim Associates. I just want to share with you today about one of the projects that we have completed many years ago, and the location is in Cambodia, Phnom Penh. So when I got invited by Cosentino regarding the topic sharing about sustainable, so I was very curious, and also I think it's something that as the designers is quite contradict that of what we are doing as most of the designers and architects, because if we talk about sustainability, probably like what Joe have mentioned, we probably should not be building anything because when we start building any interior architecture, it's hardly sustainable because of the carbon footprint and because of the processes and because of all these production requirement. So I think this is getting more and more concern for the general public regarding the sustainable concern. And so I have been thinking for quite some time what a project that I should share that related to this topic. And what I have here is, sorry, I think, yeah, can you also see my screen, right? It suddenly jumps out. Okay, hold on. Let me try again. All right. Okay, so I have thought of these projects that we've completed on the 2014 towards 2015. So we're very fortunate to get this project for the first years where we started our practice. It is one of the largest F&B projects that we have back then in Cambodia, Phnom Penh. It consists of around 26,000 square feet F&B. So as you can see in the slide, it is a 2-story metal structures architecture. So this is how it looks like when we first approached the site, and this is the first look when I visited the site. So back then in Cambodia, if comparing to Malaysia, right, some of us we are very familiar with some of the very nice workmanship, the finishes that we have in Malaysia for most of our project. But back then in Cambodia, 2014 and 2015, the knowledge and experience of the local worker in terms of a nice workmanship and the craftsmanship is not as the standard that we expect. So due to this challenge and also the setbacks, we were thinking that is there anything that we can do to utilize the localized materials, the local materials, and some of the being abandoned materials to be adaptive reuse for the interior design feature, to apply it across our design, to be part of the design element, to be part of the feature of the interior design, and to be part of the, for example, the lighting installation and some of the decoration installation as well. So this is how it looks like for the building external look. And we intend to use a lot more honest material like cement, concrete, rough wood, metal, mild steel, and all that for the main language for the overall interior setup. So just showing you, this is the floor plan of the overall building. Basically, it consists of 2 floors, and a little bit of context about what the restaurant provided. The main target customers of this restaurant is more like a VVIP and like a military general. So they are serving like those high-end customers. So that's why you can see that in the design, there's a lot of private room in the overall design. So this is the main entrance of the restaurant. We have this alfresco area, and then we have this semi-alfresco area. And when you enter to the building, you are being greeted by the wine cellar display, and there is this oval-shaped preparation area is like exposed, and so the customers can actually see how the meat is being processed. Because this Brazilian restaurant, they are very, very proud of how they prepare their meat and all that. So they want to showcase. So we have this semi oval shape, the preparation area showcase. So it's like a performance as well. And then we have designed a lot of all these private rooms, cater different group of people. And we have this also semi alfresco area. That is, we call it the pool sitting area, because it's actually elevated, and underneath is like having a water feature. And there's the VIP area that I mentioned, and there's some of the washroom and the kitchen for the bakery. And this is the main kitchen of the overall the ground floor. And we move up to the first floor. That is these numbers of KTV room, which it includes KTV, and it includes private dining, and there's its own washroom as well in one KTV room. So we design this different concept KTV room so that it feels more, it creates a more interesting and exciting environment for the diners. And then we have this center bar. As it's like a chill out bar, and we have a private VIP room with the cigar lounge. So this is the second floor. So this is how it looks like when it's completion. Probably some of you may think that, hey, how come it looks a bit rustic and rugged? So it goes back to the challenge and the limitation that we have that I mentioned earlier regarding the workmanship and all that. So we try to use all these type of natural and also the raw materials. Like for example, in this case, this is like a metal panel. It's an oxidized metal panel with the laser cutting. So we have created this sliding panel as a sun shading device. At the same time, it's an interesting pattern for the facade, and it's another layers of sun shading device for the alfresco area. So from outside, this is how you see from the external of the alfresco area. So you see this interesting oxidized metal panel. And on the internal side of the alfresco area, this metal panel is actually creating as a sun shading device for the facade pattern, as well as the direct shadow of the sun when it comes to the alfresco area. So this is the alfresco area. And the main building design is more like, you will not see plaster ceiling in the building design, because we have exposed and stripped off all the majority of the ID finishes that there's something that we are familiar in Malaysia, but back then in Cambodia, we want to go back to very basic for the structure of the building. And this is the semi-alfresco area that I just mentioned, nearer to the entrance. One of the challenges that we have, other than the workmanship of the local, the technical workmanship, it is also another big challenge is about the stability of the electricity. Some of you, if you have experienced a project in Cambodia before, you probably understand what I'm talking about. The electricity in Cambodia back then is not that stable, and they are very much dependent on the generator during the daytime and sometimes during the evening as well. So one of the ideas for this restaurant design is try to allow as much daylight as possible during the daytime, so that they can save up the electricity usage during the daytime. So they only focus to use the electricity during the evening and nighttime. And also to mention that due to the instability of the electricity cost is also very, very high in Cambodia, comparing like you're renting a place and also you're paying for your stuff. The electricity bill is eventually higher. Go back to the adaptive reuse elements that we have here. So you can see that the tabletop of the dining table, we have basically used the reclaimed wood and to touch up, and then to utilize them as the dining tabletop, and we have added some of the detail for the furniture to make it looks good. And this is another view that just that's showing the pool dining area. So the underneath of this pool dining area is basically elevated and with water feature. So you can see that we're trying to have this principle and design intent of allowing more daylight to the interior space. So this is like a semi-alfresco area. So we have plenty of daylight, and then you can see that the structures of ceiling of this area is using those metal structure, the truss structures of what you can find in the like the concert lah. Okay, a little bit background of this restaurant owner and the client. Back then, previously, he actually owned a few clubs in Singapore. So, and after he sold off his club and plus shut down the club, he have remained a lot of all those, the coffee table and also all these parquet light and the trusses of the stage performance. So he has kept all these elements in the warehouse. So in this project, we have thought of like adaptive reuse, right? So we try to maximize the usage of what is being left over in his warehouse, and to utilize it to be part of the features. Like in this case, for example, there's the support of the lighting feature, and we reuse some of the parking light and just to do some modification of the lighting to set like for the interior ambience and the trusses and all that to be part of the design feature. And this is just another close-up view of the reclaimed wood that we have used to turn it into a dining tabletop. And also, it's a restaurant bar business, so there's a lot of all these beer bottle. So we utilize the beer bottle, the Heineken beer bottle, to create this Heineken, features, ceiling feature. It's like a lighting feature, so you can see all this is the Heineken bottle. We basically just created a metal frame to hold this the beer bottle, and turn out become quite a nice design features for the ceiling, and also creating additional ambience as well. And we utilize, some of the local materials, like for example, the bird cage, to turn it into like a new lighting installation design for the waiting lounge area. And also some of the pallets that we reuse it to turn it into like a feature wall at this staircase atrium area. So you can see that the structure is all that, the wall finishes and all that is very bare finish, is just cement plastering and the exposed roof and all that. And this is another view that, for what I've mentioned just now, the semi-oval shapes of the preparation area. So you can really see through how's the preparation area. And the general flooring of the restaurant is cement render flooring. And we have this left over from, the neighbors that's doing the construction in terms of the broken tiles. We have actually reused that and collected to turn it become like a floor highlight pattern for this buffet counter, the flooring highlight for the buffet counter. And then the counter itself, we actually use the wood frame formwork and also to create this concrete texture for the counter. And I think if you look into detail, the center piece the structures, the design features of this counter is basically is the tree trunk, where we actually reuse and recycle from the roadside. Then we turn it in, then we clean it up, and then we turn it into part of the this center feature of the island. And there is this wood that we have also turned it into become like one of the lighting installation. And this is another close-up look between the island table and also this the buffet counter. So what is very interesting here, like I mentioned just now, these clients, they basically have, you know, this a lot of leftover coffee table for their previous lounge at a club in Singapore. So all this is actually a coffee table. So we have you know, designed a new concrete stand for it, and then to turn this as part of the counter feature along this semi-circle display. And this also serves as a cutlery and storage display. So this is just another close-up look for the lighting ambience at night. So it turned out quite nice, where we have this rough concrete, rough cement texture and incorporate with the lighting. And this is just another close-up view that's showing, you know, the coffee tables that you can put up. There's additional storage space, and you can put cutlery as well. And in some of the VIP private room, we have also recycled the wheel, the big wooden wheel, and then we use the twine and to add a little bit of creativity to turn it into like a ceiling pendant light installation design. So it's very industrial look, pendant light design, and parking light as well. So all this, you can see this type of you know, the strip design is not really a metal. It's actually reuse of the you know, the partition, the structure of the partition, and then we just turn it over the structures, and then we just paint it so that it become part of the feature. And it's a very localized material, very easy to get and very low cost. And on some of the VIP room feature, well, because back then in Cambodia, unlike what we have here in Malaysia, you know, a lot of our commercial project in Malaysia, we like to use those special effect paint or wallpaper or any ID feature. But in Cambodia, they do not have, they have a very limited supply on all this. So we work together with the local workers who came up with this cement pattern. So we use the cement to actually design and create the pattern of the wall, and it turned out quite nice as well if we incorporate with the lighting. And also we use those conduit to turn into a lighting feature. And this is how it looks like in a general picture of the VIP room. You can see the wall feature with the cement plastering. It's quite a lot of work, so and it's hard to create the consistency. So we see that some area is like that, another area is a little bit not perfect, I would say, but we have to accept that. And the piping, the electrical conduit, the water conduits is being also reused to create like a ceiling lighting features. And yeah. And just now we talk about a lot of different concepts for the VIP room, right? So in this case, this one is one of the concepts that we utilize to the Balinese concept to incorporate in the KTV room with KTV setup and dining setup. And we have the Japanese room, we have K-pop, and this is the cigar lounge. So the cigar lounge also, you can see that there's a lot of reuse and adaptive reuse material like a wheel to create the ceiling features, the trusses, and all that. So I would say that the overall project of this F&B is not something that we are commonly seen in Malaysian market. But back then, I think a lot of times when we have limitation in our project and challenges, it's just depending on how we look at it. If we look at the good side, of course, with our creativity, I think we can turn that challenge and limitation into something that is, you know, more interesting. Same goes to, you know, like I said, our job here is a bit contradict when we talk about sustainability. But I agree to what Joe and Alex has mentioned. Perhaps as a designer, we just have to do our part, start small. So look into what is the smaller details that we could tap into, like adaptive reuse and sustainability. And I think that is some things that we could contribute back to this environmental. Yeah, all right, that's all for my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Avin.
All right, I have a curious question here for you. Is adaptive reuse a new trend for F&B now, or it has been practiced all along in the past?
I would say that it's not really like a trend, but I would encourage a lot of designers to start thinking of this, like I said, so that we can reduce the carbon footprint and also the productions effect, involve cost and all that, so that it could help the environmental. And I think back then, 5-10 years ago, there is this industrial concept that is quite popular back then. So I think that is actually quite, some of it is quite useful because as a designers, we don't, specify too much in terms of the finishing, but to utilize and see what are the structures material can be part of the ID finishes that sometimes it could turn out quite nice, like the reclaimed wood, the bricks, and all that. I hope that, if you're talking about it's a trend, I hope that this will be a timeless trend so that everyone could tap into this trend and then to start doing our part on this sustainability.
Okay. What's the difference between adaptive reuse and recycling?
I would say it is sort of like quite similar. There's a lot of similarity on that because adaptive reuse, we talk about adaptive reuse like the project that I shared just now. It's not really like I just plug this and then I put that. But of course, we reuse the item that we can find, in the roadside or any localized material. Of course, we need to add a little bit of production, but the production is lesser comparing to producing a new material that is not local material, especially the carbon footprint. Recycle, in my own understanding, the recycle will be more like, for example, the plastic. How do you recycle plastic to turn into a different, a new object or new design? But adaptive reuse, I would say that it is less additional productions is required. Try to minimize the production on that.
Okay. In terms of adaptive reuse, is it more cost effective?
It depends what are the things that we reuse, because some of the things are, if let's say, for example, if you're getting wood that if your concept is go for very nice, very minimal, very clean, then I will probably not advisable to use the adaptive reuse wood, like reuse the wood, because you need to process the wood and all that. That will probably increase the cost. But it depends on the concept of the design that you go with, and it depends on the object as well. Yeah. So probably when we select the local materials or those objects that we want to reuse, try to also think about what is the process afterwards that is involved. Then you can have a more cost-effective and a better efficiency in terms of processing that.
Right. Thank you, Matthew.
All right. Thank you, Alvin.
So let's get all our gentlemen here. We will now open the Q&A questions to the floor. All right. So we have questions already. All right. So can I have all gentlemen on the screen now? Okay. The question is this: is there any blueprint on sustainability that acts as a guideline to interior design? Or each designer implements sustainability as they see fit? Okay, let's discuss on this. Alex, what do you think?
Blueprint of, okay, I think recycling, there's this term they recently keep mentioning called upcycling instead. Upcycling's concept is more like taking old usable products like wood, for example, and then giving it new life. So it's like you take all the old channel wood that was initially used for what we normally use is for timber staircase, right? The old properties where they have all those solid timber staircase. We bring it down, restructure the staircase, and then we could use the staircase for something else. I mean, we build a new material with the staircase. But all this wood, we don't just dispose them, but we give them a new life. That's called upcycling. So it's like we retreat it, or we cut it, or use it for something else. So there's no actual blueprints in terms of if you're referring to that. But if you say if there's a guideline to it of how to make things a bit more, in a way, there's a guideline to it. I think the GBI, Green Building Index, is one of the guidelines that we can follow. That's my opinion.
There's also I think it's how you. I'm not too sure what the direct question was on the blueprint, right? I mean, if you look at sustainability building, like what Alex mentioned, right? You have these criteria to fulfill in terms of GBI, in terms of LEED, this sort of that guides us for so that you get. There's also a rating on your development, whether it is a platinum or gold or silver, or you just just entry level of when you talk about green or sustainable design. Those are the guidelines, I would say. So blueprint wise, I think probably the audience are referring to that. So obviously we also have green for interior and also for architecture, right? Perhaps I think maybe that is what I thought of for the answer.
Right. Matthew, do you have anything to add?
I would say I kind of agree to Alex and Joe regarding the guideline. So probably in terms of the green guideline, you can refer to LEED and also the GBI. Yeah, but blueprint wise, I also not too sure about it.
All right. Okay, we have a questions from the floor from Jen Cole.
Hi, Jen.
The question is, when designers are trying to push sustainability initiative in ID, it always comes down to the cost. How do you convince clients to align with your value?
I'm going to go with this first, Joe, Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get this question a lot. Clients will ask me to, yes, let's go green together, let's save the world and stuff like that. Give us a quote. Then when they see the quote, right, they stop replying my text. So I think it's quite common. But so along the way, of course, we need to understand what are we selling. So the value of a product comes with the durability, the pointers of using it. For example, I'm not trying to be hard sell here. Let's talk about Cosentino's product a bit. Yeah. So if I'm going to push Cosentino's product, I need to know the target audience, how they're going to use the tabletop. If it's just a tabletop where they're just going to lay it down, then there are a huge variety of products that I can push. But if you're going to look for something that is very durable, heat resistant, they can actually do their steamboat, do their grills, and they're going to use it for heavy duty, I would propose something that is in line to that kind of requirement. So it's not just spending, but it's also spending with a purpose, right? You know that it's going to be durable, you know that it's going to be stain resistant, heat resistant, and then of course antibacterial. I think that's very important. If you prepare any food, the least you want is to have many plates so that you don't have the surface dirty for your food. But if you prepare on an antibacterial top, then you could lay everything up. So that is for modern materials. But if let's say like just now I was saying, there was one project where I used my timber steps and turn it into a feature wall. So you're going to spend X amount on a feature wall anyways. So instead of just bluntly spending it on new materials, right? Something that you have to purchase off the shelf, why not get something that is old and fix it, give a new life to it. So then when you quote your client that way, then your client will know, okay, I'm spending more on labor, but I'm going to save more on the material costs. And above that, I'm doing it for a good cause. So I think the convincing power there is how you present it to your client, to let your client feel that it does make sense. I lose some here, I win some here, but the big goal is we are going green. Right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So Matthew, are these the same challenges you are facing?
Okay, in my personal opinion, sustainability design doesn't not necessarily everything to be incur the cost, like increase the cost, because we have a choice. Like for example, some people may consider using like solar panel for their house. And by investing a solar panel, the intention is so that you can pay less in terms of the electricity. But you also have a choice to design a house that have a passive and also the natural ventilation, and also with plenty of daylight. You can also serve the same purpose, but probably lesser investment on the additional investment on the solar panel. So I would say that it depends what is the value of the end users that's looking at, and also as a designer is how do we help them to achieve the intention, because by achieving the intention there's many ways. I think first of all we have to understand like what is the intent that the client or the end user trying to achieve.
Joe, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think like what I said, right? When we talk about sustainability to client, they always look at the too big, the broad picture risk. In fact, some of the things it's not expensive they're actually using. Example, what Alex mentioned about LED bulbs is not that expensive stuff, right? Then there's a lot of material which is green label, which is not expensive. Vinyl floor. A lot of these products start having a lot of green label. Even the paint that we use is low VOC, is also a sustainable, not green product. But I think, it's just that we need to inform the client the notion of it is a habit of using the green product, right? Even during construction, how we manage the site, the disposal of material, recycling of material. So these are actually part of sustainability as well, which a lot of people tend to just look into very direct approach, right? Materiality, mechanical system, which they think is very expensive, but I don't think so. I would like to state something here. You see, the thing is, right, a lot of designers, even me, guilty as charged, right? We tend to overuse material. Why I mean by overuse material is whereby, there's certain area that we don't need to apply material, we apply. So what I want to say is basically it's not necessarily we use less material, but we use sufficient material. Example, certain walls that don't need to be painted, don't paint. There's certain walls that don't require to be plastered, don't plaster. So by reducing all these small things, you are actually reducing carbon footprint and pollution, and also workforce. Because when people travel to work, when you have lesser people coming to site to work, you have lesser people traveling to work. So the indirect effect is whereby when you travel to work, you're using cars or using lorries or etc., which is polluting the air. So this is an indirect approach to lowering carbon footprint, which a lot of people tend to forget. So coming back, all these small efforts are what I think all interior designers should continuously advocate. And the emphasis is start with one, then as a collective effort, it becomes a global effort. It becomes multiple designers are actually at that sort of initiative. So that's my little pointer. Thank you. Am I not hearing Alvin?
Sorry. Thank you, Joe. I think the next question is directed at you. Should sustainability start at education level? Since you are really lecturing in universities and colleges, please share with us your experience.
I give credit to all the lecturers. I think, in fact, if you look at universities today in interior design and architecture, I think one of the many projects are actually inclined to sustainability. I think a lot of college students and university students are very equipped with the knowledge of sustainability because they would learn it from their architectural sciences or even in their design studio. I think a lot of universities are actually advocating this in the education. So yes, in fact, some of these students probably do a better research than me in universities for sustainability or green design. Yeah, so yes, kudos to the educational system in Malaysia.
What do you say on this, Alex?
I do agree, but a lot of things should start from the education background. a lot of times where we ask ourselves, what we study, is it applicable when it comes out to the real world? So yeah, I think if a lot of students out there are listening to us, it would help them understand the broader picture of how it should begin. You know, like implying recycling into their products, or designing with the mindset of certain things shouldn't be disposed but be reused instead. All these practices start from early stages would actually help them get on track sooner. That is my point of view.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, we have another question from Jen Cole. What are the green certifications for materials that can help interior designs to identify sustainability performance? Can anyone answer this? I ask again, yeah?
I will try to answer this.
Okay. Okay, Joe, go ahead.
I think nowadays, right, most product that we get from our supplier always have this label. There are multiple label, green label, whatnot, right? So they also would put in the compost material that you can check easily. I would say how many percent. Those are the indication of whether it's a green material or it's not a green material, or how much effort they put into the green product. Again, because let's look at Cosentino, right? Probably they would always have their catalog or whatever product stating that, you know, it's renewable energy, it's recyclable water, things like that. So these are easily obtainable information. It's just that whether the designer itself understand the component of the material itself or not, which is again, we constantly need to re-educate ourselves, you know. When people tell you, okay, this product is green, okay, you don't even know what is green. So I think now products are very transparent. Whatever they do is very transparent. So if you get a good product, it is spelled very, the technical spec, the material specs are very clearly indicated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, our last questions for today is, are there any incentive for interior designers to promote sustainability? This is an interesting question. Are there any incentive for interior designers to promote sustainability? What do you say, Matthew?
I think it goes down to responsible, and also the moral, and also what is your belief, because not everything that we're talking about incentive and what is the return and all that. I think the consequences is we may not feel it now because I think global warming, the awareness of global warming is getting more and more. So we may not feel it now, but probably our future generation will face, you know, the more critical condition of the global warming. So you're doing for the next generation. Yeah.
Very well. How about you, Alex?
It feeds our ego. It feeds our pride. It gives us a better reason, because like I was sharing in my presentation earlier, we as interior designers and architects, we are the future to sustainability. We are the ones that create life to construction, to property. We are the ones that could actually alter this belief or this practice in terms of a greater purpose for tomorrow. Because if we keep emphasizing on this, it's like the movement of the no plastic bag at supermarkets, right? You don't realize that every plastic bag that you stop using reflects so much to the environment, until you start realizing that it's a common practice. Then you know that, wow, okay, straws, plastic bags, all these are really impactful change, starting from one person. So if every interior design and architecture firm out there practices from the very beginning, believes this practice as a core, we will definitely be able to impact the environment in a more significant volume. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. Any last word, Joe?
Incentive is basically for your next generation, because you're going to have kids, you're going to have grandchild, so you have a better world. a better environment with all this greenhouse effect whatsoever. That's, I think, is the biggest incentive. It's not necessarily monetary terms lah. So yeah, I'm not trying to say we're gonna save the world, but we do a little bit for the environment. That's all we need. That's the incentive. Thank you.
But in terms of
I agree.
architecture,
Yes,
in terms of architecture, there is the GBI, the Green Building Index, where you can get I think it's a refund, a tax refund, or it's a refund that you can get for electricity.
Okay, that will be the topic for our next discussion. Okay, we just want to thank you for the three award-winning speakers for their wonderful insight into the topic, sustainability in interior design, create eco-friendly objects and spaces. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Evan.
Cosentino.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cosentino, for creating such a wonderful platform to learn about sustainability and other subjects. I hope you all enjoy the sessions today. Over to you, Chantel.
Wow. Hi. Okay, thanks for all the insightful sharing. We know as for today in Malaysia, sustainability is definitely not enough, but I believe if we are starting slow and then it will increase gradually, right? So all of us, if we are practicing, advocating the practice, I believe sustainable is definitely the future. Well, once again, thank you, Joe, Matthew, and Alex for answering the questions and for the great presentations. It was really a pleasure to have you all with us. I think 1 hour, I will leave 1 hour and 15 to nearly to 20 minutes is definitely not enough. Well, so to conclude the webinar, we now have a better understanding of how a design can be sustainable and gave us much more clear on the differences with the sharings from our top 3 speakers, I would say. Last but not least, Cosentino look forward and welcome any opportunity if there could be a meaningful collaboration. I hope to meet each of you at Cosentino showroom when the right time comes. And in the meantime, stay safe and take care. Till we meet again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you a
Thank
lot
you.
for your help.
See you guys.
All the way.
Oh.